hello and fuck cape shit. Welcome to another episode of Shittywebcomics Weekly, brought to you by our Subscribe Star backers. Check it out below for access to all the hidden videos that you plebs aren't allowed to look at. You fucking piece of shit. But hey,
You
uh,
motherfuckers.
you motherfuckers. On today's episode, we're going to cover a few things. First, starting off with again, we have to point out every time, um, it's a little uncomfortable or unfortunate that we called the blog Shitty Webcomics so long ago because there are many times we will cover good comics. There are good web
People,
comics.
it's unfortunate how little people understand in general, on top of us having to be named shitty webcomics.
Yeah, but so many people are so low IQ and don't understand anything. So when we
Oh, we
start
just had
off,
a really nice experience of that today with fucking Richard.
oh yeah, well we'll get into that
We'll
either
get
at the
into
end of
that
this or
whenever.
possibly this might be a little two-parter because we are pre-recording this just so people understand when this goes up in a few weeks because we kind of need to pre-record some of these
So that,
for in case we can't record a video at all next week or the
so
week
that you
after.
dumb motherfuckers will see clearly.
Well, which is pretty good. We're basically just going to, as far as web comics or comics at all, because we can talk about whatever we want on this, but we are sticking to comics and the general topic of comics and various things about comics. So, basically, starting off with the brand new Kamen America webcomic that's on Webtoon. It started last week already, which, by the time you see this, it'll probably be a few weeks ago or even a month ago. But if you just check out Webtoon or Webtoons, I think it is, but it's funny that the logo says Webtoon, but the website says Webtoons. But there's Common America, and they're like short versions of. There's only two so far, but from I think what Tim and Mark already said, they have enough for like 16 episodes just right now, and they're sort of shorter, a bit simple and straightforward, yeah, and yet very cute, and it's already blowing up, and apparently getting them sales on their Kindle and that kind of stuff and possibly getting them some more heat on the Kickstarter, which is actually what our topic this week is going to be about. But first thing we will do is we didn't do a review of Black Ops X Common America. Here's our review. It's good. There. Now, here's our review of the Common America webcomic. It's also good. And just scrolling through it, the first episode is sort of a not an alternate take, but a different kind of sum up of the first the first volume of Common America, as well as a sort of a combination and even little gags on her introduction in was it Black? No, it wasn't Black Ops. It was in Walmite. She shows up as Warhen, and she was Carly Vanders, which was supposed to be a parody on Captain Marvel at the time when the big thing was the whole blowing up of the idea of Comicgate. Not that Common America. I don't want people to get the wrong idea of representation of we're not representing Common America as being part of Comicgate because in fact it isn't.
A lot of people seem to have problems squaring that circle.
Yeah, and that's a topic that we've gone into a bunch of times already in the past in episodes of the Shitty Webcomics Weekly, but also in our a bunch of our extra videos where we're going to a lot more depth, our deep dives, our bigger reviews and stuff in the Subscribe Star Pig paywall videos. So again, if you want to check out a lot more analysis about the stuff that, again, this stuff isn't speculation. It's stuff that we've found out from having connections with the inside of all of this stuff. We have Tim and Mark on. We were just on with Tim and Mark last week on their channel, and we're planning to have them on our channel again. It's been a
The
while because
funniest
they've
thing
been
of all,
busy.
though, is that we've got kind of a lot of insider connections, and we
Yeah,
don't even care. Just imagine if somebody who was actually bothered by some of this shit had actual
Well, I
connections or were
notice anytime anyone has a problem with
thinking.
what we are saying about any of this, it's because they have no clue. None of those people who get mad at us never have insider connections, or they they have something to hide. In fact, you in every case, if they are part of the inside connections, is because we caught them in a lie that we've objectively proven using their own words to contradict themselves. It's happened so many times. On the previous channel we had that got banned because of Comicsgate false flagging us, which, there's no argument about that. If people in Comicsgate are like, we don't false flag, you did. And you supported it. In fact, you financially benefited and paid the people who did it and were responsible
I mean,
for it.
it got to the point where they had to like seriously backpedal
Yeah, yeah,
because they knew they were
Comicsgate
caught.
desperately had to backpedal. But again, we're just covering the context. We're bringing this up just to bring up the greater context of the whole situation. The Kamen America comic, it started, it goes into some of the original context, which was, well, here's Kamen America, but it started off as Warhen and all this other goofy shit. Yeah, in fact, there's a goof on this, the sort of last page-ish pinup in the first episode is Warhen, which was her original name. And I don't know where the name came from, but they certainly decided that it was dumb and changed her and turned her into an original character. Because the original basis was a parody on Captain Marvel because she was turning into just butch dyke guy with man haircut and man shoulders and all that stuff. And that's where the whole thing was coming, the backlash, the long overdue backlash that we had originally started years earlier and had established, and that was
In a
too
way, you can
honest.
say
Not our
we
opinion,
inspired
was
it.
too honest for Comicsgate. That's the opinion of other people from Comicsgate who are familiar with us, said that we were literally too honest for Comicsgate. Again, it's not my opinion. It is the objective analysis of other people,
And you
including
know they're saying it
some people who do know better than anyone else.
better than all the rest.
Yeah, but that's where the stuff, parodying Captain Marvel came from, and that's where the War Hen and that kind of stuff came from, and it was all supposed to be part of the great parody and showing like how, hey, we can all do it better than Marvel and that kind of thing. And let's just say we've gone into the graphic details about all of this over many many videos, on our previous channel and even on the current channel. So we're basically the best historians on that. So if you want the real story on that, just go through our channels, either the old ancient archive or even our current videos. But it backfired pretty badly for Tim and Mark, among others who were pals with Tim and Mark. But then that ended up backfiring massively for Comicsgate. So the
Counter
whole togetherness thing just never worked, and Tim and Mark walking away from this basically turned this character, the parody, into a new character, Kamen America. And you could see there's a few goofs and jokes about their former association with Comicsgate. Even here, the corporation's Heart Chickens, merch potential, Wetflix contract, Bach sponsors, comic deals with big box stores. All of those are parodies and sort of goofing on Mitch Breitweiser and Comicsgate in general, especially the big box store thing in particular. But aside from that, the rest of this is sort of just a nice little sum up of the first Kamen America volume that tells this whole story just longer. And it's kind of cool that they were able to take their own story and sum it up to about fucking 7 or 8 panels ultimately, or maybe 10 total about.
themselves too. A
While
lot of
also
people
keeping a sense of humor and
can't
cute.
even think about that.
Mm. Um. Anyways, so yeah, there's a second episode already out, and they're short and uh, they have little goofs while also being about the overall, like, how she's becoming Kamen America and that kind of stuff. So it's very cute and happy and fun. And it ties in also with the massive, just exploding nuclear success of Kamen America Volume 4, which we've, of course, been supporters and backers, actually putting our money where our mouth is, not just recommending and suggesting and talking up these comics. But I've been a backer of every single one of these. As you can see here, it says you're a backer. You pledged $16. I always at least get a book, even though, as Tim mentioned on the last stream we were on with him, on his channel, The Bunderdome, he mentioned we don't really have to back his comics ever. He would give us free copies. But again, we want to put our money where our mouth is, and I want to buy an actual copy of it, not just receive it, but I want to buy his book, because it's just, again, $10, $10, and I get the book, and it's $6 shipping too. But it made me think, with this blowing up and all the other books in the series that they've done, when you compare the business, how much business they're doing, as well as the business model, just all these things kind of combined, how does this compare against the other supposed indie darlings? So I wanted to see, kind of compare this to, say, Cyberfrog. But here's the thing: is that it has to be. So I figured we would look at what is the business. How's the business going of Cyberfrog versus Kamen America? And the thing is that you have to, so, we would set some rules down for how to actually compare this. First, there's a lot of very suspicious, non-transparent stuff with Indiegogo. As we've established previously, you can back the same book 100 times and it will count as 100 customers on Indiegogo. It's very not transparent. It's very, it's not just shady, but Ethan himself has also publicly admitted to having a sort of back alley deal with Indiegogo, where they'll look the other way for doing things against the terms of service, such as running several concurrent campaigns for the exact same comic. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare the campaigns and sort of the total overall customer base and that kind of thing. But also at the same time, it will be for original works. So each Kamen America book is an original work. Each Cyberfrog book is an original work. And we will give some of the benefit of the doubt to Ethan and count Cyberfrog 2, which isn't actually out and it's not finished. Whereas in the time span of Cyberfrog 2 even running a campaign and coming out, pretty much every single Kamen America book has come out and been released. So we're going to compare the backers first. We're going to add up Ethan Van Sciver's backers. And in order to actually do this properly, we have to take his backers as it says. We'll take the final total for his backers, because the money can be artificially padded. That's another thing, is you can donate tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one thing that was discovered later, unintentionally, Ethan did not want this coming out, but it turns out that he had a bunch of rich people donating to him, including Dynamite Comics officially donating to not only his campaigns, but other campaigns by people who had nothing to do with comics, that were using their comics as sort of a money laundering scheme for gay ops and stuff, like War Campaigns comics and that kind of thing. People who have never made comics before, people who have no experience with indie comics, that kind of thing. But in order to get a better estimation, because it's also been confirmed that a lot of people, a lot of Ethan's fans, admitted that they would back his campaigns multiple times, sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 times, sometimes dozens of times, all over multiple sock puppets, to create the illusion of having a huge customer base, when his channel has plateaued a long time ago. His actual viewership on his channels his actual customer base has no signs of growth, except on Indiegogo, where you can artificially create the illusion of it very easily. I could do that. I could make an Indiegogo and donate $1 million to myself, a million times $1 at a time, and it look like I have $1 million and a million backers. The thing is, it depends on how many people you have doing that for you. And Ethan has even established, and a lot of people have come out to admit that they would back Ethan's campaigns multiple times over to pad the numbers. So there is obviously there's no way to fully see the real legitimate numbers. So in order to get a better picture of it, what we have to do is Cyberfrog Blood Honey, $538,000 from 8,566 backers. So let's put that through this magical device called a calculator. 8566 divided by 2. Let's cut that in half. 4,283 backers. This is now, of course, there is no way to tell how many backers he really has, but this is at least a very fair assessment. It could be more. It could be that he actually had closer to 6,000, but it also could be that he had closer to 3,000 or 2,000 that were just backing, so many dozens of times. Because he did have people who openly talked about, War Campaign, fucking Sketch Therapy in particular, would brag about how he had like 50 different accounts that he was constantly managing. Because they didn't do anything else. They didn't make comics. They didn't
They still
have jobs. They didn't do anything else with their lives. They would literally, a few dozen of them would spend all day managing sock puppet accounts for years until it all imploded, of course. And that's a whole other story. We've gone into that in the past many times. But let's take, just to be completely fair, 4,283 backers for the original Cyberfrog. That's a decent amount, I think. And, that's very fair. And we'll take Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet, which, again, his customer base was shrinking visibly and had no signs of growth anywhere. Then his Indiegogo, it says, has 11,897 backers. Clearly, he was realizing that he had to present the image of having growth, because otherwise people would say, "Oh, it's all falling apart. We're seeing it fall apart," and that would drive him insane. He has a long history of creating false narratives and also being really furious about being shown up in any way or contradicted. Like he has literally cut people off permanently. Just for contradicting
goal in all of this usually seems to be just spite.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge element of that, and it's not like the spite money meme or anything. It's about having like a very emotionally frail personality, which it again is fully on display. There's no questioning that. Another thing that got brought up now, before we even do some of the math, but the complex fucking divide by 2 math on this. It was brought up that the second comic is supposed to be about how the majority of the population of Earth is dead, and that most likely he will have to resort. But I'm looking at just the bizarre anatomical flaw. Like there's an ear just pasted over top of the head. Her head is just twisted like 75% around like an owl.
You can't blame that on the colorist. You can't blame that on the inker.
Yeah. She has total man jaw here, too. It's bizarre. But anyways, it's highly speculated that after Cyberfrog 2, he's just going to pull some time travel Star Trek Voyager reset button shit, which is the laziest resort of any writer, comics or otherwise. And it's like, is that really what your movement is aspiring to be, is the worst parts of Star Trek Voyager? If that's what you're about,
one of the worst shows. Well, what used to be considered the worst show in Star Trek history until we found out that it could actually get
It
worse.
could get worse, but until it did get worse, Voyager was definitely by far the worst. For those specific reasons, every time they would just hit the reset button. I mean, after all, Threshold still one of the fucking worst episodes of all of Star Trek, where they just straight up they do this goofy dumb shit and they hit the reset
Also,
button.
I would have to say another a strength of Star Trek over Star Wars is that with Star Wars, when they get a bad movie, it's like actually the previous movie was really bad one, or or now the new cope with George Lucas is actually the best thing,
Oh
and
yeah,
they totally ruined it once he was gone.
the bizarre backpedaling on that.
With
Anyways,
Star Trek, there is none of that shit. It's
Star
like these were
Trek.
bad, we just didn't know that they would get worse, and it
They
got
get
worse.
so much worse. Anyway, so 4283, and then we're gonna take trying to remember 4283. We're gonna take this fucking
I'm not gonna remember.
11897 and divide that by two. So 4948. So 4283, 4283. So that brings us back up to 10,000, and this is again combining the first two. A lot of these are the same people, but a lot of the people with the Kamen America campaigns will be the same people. So it's not all new customers, it's just the total customers. And it is fucking very evident that that the about Indiegogo, you can make backers. You don't even have to register to donate. In fact, you don't actually have to donate real money. You can. That's another thing about Indiegogo that speaks to the suspicious non-transparency of Indiegogo and why Indiegogo is not only preferred in Comicgate, but actually there's been some hilarious drama behind the scenes and even in public where people have been screaming at each other in Comicgate about how you are not allowed to use Kickstarter, to the point where people have been talking about how they were shocked by Ethan's behavior, how he would come in and start screaming at people in voice chat, in private voice chat servers and that kind of thing, about how angry he was that other people were even talking about. In fact, one of them wasn't even in private. One was in public, where Ethan started just yelling and cursing people out about the idea of them thinking about using Kickstarter. And again, that's good. That's good for all of us. That's good for the actual independent creators. As opposed to Ethan, who, again, secretly this entire time was being held up by Dynamite Comics, funded by Dynamite Comics, but also they were handling his fulfillment, which added to that. Dynamite Comics donated money to the Antifa bailout fund, which means some of Comicsgate's money went. If you donated to Cyberfrog or other Comicsgate comics, but especially Cyberfrog, some of your money went to Antifa. And that's the fucking end of it. That's been proven already.
It's bad enough. It's bad enough that he might have might not have actually been Comicsgate or any of that other shit trying to promote the fucking gay Republicans or any shit like that. It's like whatever.
Yeah, and calling himself a hero to the LGBT.
That's lame, but you can do that. But then you're just straight up funding Antifa,
Yeah,
which is basically just a group of. It's like if the Proud Boys were actually as dangerous as everyone says they are.
yeah, the real version of that. But anyways, so 10,231. Now we're going to combine the all the backers for Common America's campaigns. So starting with Common America 1 is now here's the difference that again people would be like, oh, why aren't you going to cut off anybody? Because in order to back on Kickstarter, you have to register, whereas you do not on Indiegogo. And if you don't know that already, like if you didn't know that before I said that, you are terminally low IQ. You will always be an inferior person, especially to us. But and there's no arguing against that. That's just that's going to be how you're going to have to cope with life, I guess. But again, starting with, and we're not going to count the money because the money is just money. And there is no way to indicate how. Like with Cyberfrog 2, he was charging $200 for a box. And that's going to be a lot more work and a lot more math. Certainly a lot more math than I'm ever going to do. But
There's
here,
no way. I don't believe for a single second that he really makes the money he claims
no,
to.
and plus also that's counting the costs of shipping. All of the shipping costs get added to the final total. So if you charge $50, if you charge $10 for a comic and $50 for a shipping, it just shows up as you fucking got $60 from this one person. And again, you can cancel or you can simply not pay, and it will still count towards the total for Indiegogo. Now, technically, you could do that for Kickstarter, but they go through more standards. Kickstarter has a higher standard for verifying and measuring. But still, here we'll go through the backers just to go. We're not showing how many customers there are, but how many people got how many books, and we still did. To be fair, we counted Cyberfrog 2, which has not shipped to a single person. And in fact, many people have said that Cyberfrog 1, they still didn't get theirs for a year afterwards. In fact, it was highly suspected that Ethan would not ship to anyone if he knew that they criticized him. Like Vicky, for about a year after Cyberfrog 1 came out, she was saying she still hadn't gotten her copy. And then Ethan eventually, like, specially sent a copy to her to try to undo the public relations damage of that. The fact that Ethan was intentionally withholding the product that his customers had paid for. And at some point had also been withholding refunds from customers, or customers would, like being from PA, ask for a refund, and he had War Campaign start attacking her and obsessing over her for an entire year straight, until, of course, War Campaign turned against Ethan. Because there was, again, that's a whole other story. But anyways,
It's a hilarious other story.
yes, and we've covered that in previous videos, many previous videos. Most of those are on the previous channel, but again, some of those are archived, and if you want to find that, you either know where to look because you actually know about the truth, or you don't know where to look because you didn't want to know the truth. You buried your head in the sand. But here, we're going to start adding this up, but we're actually going to, you know what we'll do? We'll start finishing. We'll add this up in the next video. So unlike, share, recomment, whatever. Remember that all the extra deep lore and the real stories, and even a lot of the archival stuff, the backups, are available on our Subscribestar. We still have backups that are public. It's just that you have to actually look at the right place, because again, we got false flagged so many times just for telling the truth. Or reviewing people's comics. We have a long history of no one in Comicgate defending us or supporting us for getting false flagged, because there's people in Comicgate who are false flagging us. So if you want the real inside dope, the deep dives, or more in-depth reviews, our review of Alt Hero Q and John Del Rose's Clockwork something. Those just went up on our Subscribestar, or by just, I mean last month at this point. So, donate money, give money, if you want to know the truth of what's happening in comics, or just tune in and should have listened to Shitty Webcomics.